Hello and a very warm welcome to Game On, your one-stop destination for all the big sports stories from India and around the world. I'm Neha Bharadwaj Alter and I have Abhishek Kumar with me to take you through what is going on in Centurion. We're going to begin with day one of the Boxing Day test between India and South Africa, and after a 30-minute delay due to a wet outfield, South Africa won the toss and chose to bowl first in overcast conditions. Captain Temba Bavuma went in with 4 fast bowlers, which gave you an idea about what the conditions at Supersport Park in Centurion were like. With the ball darting around, Rohit Sharma had his batters his batters had their task cut out, and South Africa new ball duo of Kagiso Rabada and Marco Jansen were getting good seam movement. But while Jansen, he struggled to get his length right, Rabada was bang on the money and surprised the Indian skipper with a delivery that cramped him for room as he tried to pull one to fine leg. And he was given out. Nandre Berger at fine leg, deep fine, got his wicket. Yashasvi Jaiswal was next to go, as debutant Nandre Berger bowled a fuller delivery and lured Jaiswal to go for a drive and ended up getting caught behind. Then the next wicket was Shubman Gill's. He was unfortunate when he was caught leg side. After the DRS revealed, the ball had brushed his glove. So 3 quick wickets for South Africa, and you felt like there is no coming back for India. But there was Virat Kohli in the middle along with Shreyas Iyer. South Africa had their 3rd wicket in the first hour of play. It couldn't have been worse after both Virat Kohli and Shreyas Iyer were handed a life ban. For India, this was something that they needed to build on, and that's exactly what they did, but not for very long. Shreyas Iyer was dropped at point by Marco Jansen. Virat was dropped at 4 by Tony de Zorzi at backward square leg. Both, though, looked solid as the conditions eased up a bit and South African pacers were inconsistent with their lengths. But Kagiso Rabada, he came back, recharged after tea. I don't know what he had for after lunch. I don't know what he had, but he ended the 68-run partnership between Kohli and Iyer as he pitched one up, and Shreyas Iyer, he was late to bring his bat down, bowling him for 31. He continued troubling India. He dismissed Virat Kohli with an unplayable delivery which landed on Kohli's middle stump, only to seam away to take the edge. Unplayable one there, and then he got the wicket of Ravichandran Ashwin as well. India at the moment 157 for 6 with KL Rahul and Shardul Thakur in the middle, and at this point are looking solid. But how long can they last? Can they build a big enough partnership to get India out of trouble? That's what they'll be looking to do, Abhishek. Of course, they're looking good at the moment. Both Shardul and KL Rahul have been playing well, despite what we've seen with Kagiso Rabada. But how long can they be there in the middle, especially with the way Kagiso Rabada is bowling?
Yeah, it will be important for them to to stay there for a long time, especially KL Rahul, who scored a century in Centurion test the last time India toured South Africa. So he'll have confidence from that game. Obviously he would be feeling good after scoring that century, and he knows the conditions well. He has done it before there, so the onus would be on him to make sure that India reaches a respectable total here. And Shardul Thakur, we cannot praise him enough for the kind of cricketer he has been for India in Test cricket. Whenever we are touring overseas, Shardul comes into picture because he provides that stability in the batting lineup. He adds the depth in your batting lineup, and if he goes on to score a half century here, which he's close to, this would be one of his best knocks in Test cricket.
So India were 24 for 3 at one point. Like I said, Shubman Gill along with Rohit Sharma and Yashasvi Jaiswal, they were back in the hut, and you needed someone with that that effort to build the innings. Virat Kohli and Shreyas Iyer did that, but only for a while. We've also got to talk a little bit about the conditions itself. I think India knew going in that it was not going to be easy, and that's the reason why South Africa and Temba Bavuma put them in. He said that this pitch had been under the covers for 40 hours or so, and he knew that it's
Batting
going to be seaming around. It's not going to be easy. So India did have the worst of conditions earlier on.
Right, and we have always seen in South Africa, we have had test matches where the scores have been pretty low and games have been decided within 4 days, and that's how the pitches behave in South Africa. The conditions are pretty friendly for the fast bowlers. You have uneven bounce, you have seaming conditions. Today as well, there was slight breeze as well after a rain delay, and the fast bowlers made good use of it against the Indian top order. And you have to mention it here that the Indian top order had the top three had two batters who were making their debut in South Africa. Both Shubman Gill and Yashasvi Jaiswal were playing their first test match in South Africa, and it's never going to be easy, for young batters. Obviously, someone like Yashasvi Jaiswal, who has just played one test series for India. He's just 2 tests old, and he's coming to South Africa, and he has that pressure on him to prove himself. You have someone like a Ruturaj Gaikwad, still waiting in the wings. That if you don't take your chances, then you might be replaced, in the next rubber. So obviously there is that pressure as well, and I think it's sometimes it plays to your head as well. And when the conditions too are that difficult, like they are in South Africa, then it obviously makes a lot more difficult for the young batters.
Yeah, and I also think that this is not something that this is not the first time we're seeing this. We see this with Indian batters every time they tour to South Africa, where they struggle in these conditions, and South African bowlers know exactly what to do, which is what surprised me, because today it could have been worse for India if it had not been for two dropped catches of Virat Kohli and Shreyas Iyer. And on top of that, I felt like Marco Jansen was completely off his length.
Right.
And so whatever pressure Kagiso Rabada was trying to create with the new ball, you felt like Marco Jansen was releasing that pressure, because he was just bowling that length where the openers didn't have to play, and they could keep leaving those deliveries. And so in that sense, I felt like South Africa erred a bit, especially in the first session, right?
Right, ma'am. Also, Kagiso Rabada is just coming back after an injury. We were not sure if he was going to play this test match or not. And look at the kind of lengths he's been bowling, the kind of pressure he has created on the Indian batters. That shows the quality of the fast bowler he is. Obviously, Marco Jansen was not at his best, but imagine if he was at his best, this Indian team would be in deep trouble at the moment. Also, 2 dropped catches in consecutive overs. First Shreyas Iyer was dropped, which was a difficult catch. The next over, Kohli was dropped, which was a sitter, I believe. He should that catch should have been taken, and if that was taken, India might have faced trouble in reaching even 100 runs.
That's true. So Virat Kohli, in that stay of 64 deliveries where he got 38 runs, he looked good.
Right.
But the delivery that he got Virat Kohli's wicket, that dismissed him, was an unplayable delivery. So it's one of those things where in that one match, you're going to get that unplayable delivery and you can do nothing about it, because he was looking good. He could have gone on to a big score.
Right, and he's coming after such a good World Cup where he scored more than 700 runs. That's the highest any batter has scored in a single World Cup edition. If you come into a test series like South Africa, you couldn't ask for have asked for a better World Cup than what Virat had, coming into this series. And obviously the confidence showed when, after that catch was dropped, he looked in complete control. He was batting so well against the Pacers. There were a few deliveries where he was caught off guard. There was one delivery from a Burger which hit him plumb on the pad, which he survived. The ball was drifting off the stump, but then barring that, he looked pretty much in control. And also he's been the highest scorer for India in South Africa in Test cricket. He has more than 700 runs. Among the current crop of players, he has the most runs in South Africa. So you would expect Virat to stand up in this series and deliver if India to do something special.
That's right. Now earlier, Indian all-rounder Ravindra Jadeja, he was ruled out of the first test due to back spasm. BCCI said Jadeja complained of pain in his upper back. That's on today morning, just before the game. The team management decided not to risk him for the series opening Boxing Day test match. BCCI in an official statement said Ravindra Jadeja complained of upper back spasms on the morning of the match and he was not available for the first test. BCCI did not share much detail about the extent of Jadeja's injury, but does not seem very serious at the moment. The all-rounder, he was seen having an extended session on Sunday. He did not seem to be in any sort of discomfort even while walking back to the changing room. Now, Jadeja's injury meant Ravichandran Ashwin, he got a surprise entry into India's playing 11 as the lone spin bowling all-rounder. Ashwin, despite being the #1 ranked test bowler, has not been India's preferred spinner overseas and does not have the best of records in South Africa, having taken just 10 wickets in 7 tests at an average of 50. And I don't know what that role would be even for Ravichandran Ashwin in this game, given that South Africa have gone with a four-man. Yeah. So they've gone in with a complete pace attack. They believe that spinner will not play a role, and if they do, they'll get Aiden Markram to bowl a few overs. But to see Ravindra Jadeja out and Ravichandran Ashwin coming in place of him, is that a good choice on this pitch?
I don't think India had any other better options than Ashwin once Jadeja was out of the picture, because you always knew that one out of Jadeja and Ashwin were going to play this test match, and India wouldn't have wanted to take that risk of going in without a spinner, because they have played test cricket in the last few years where they have enjoyed tremendous success. They have played with that philosophy of having a spin bowler in the middle overs,
even despite the conditions,
runs, creating that pressure, and then the fast bowlers coming in and taking the wickets. So I think Ashwin was always going to come into picture once Jadeja was ruled out.
Okay, the other thing being now is this story which has been going on for a while now, since basically the start of the first test between Australia and Pakistan. Now what has happened is that Australian cricketer Usman Khawaja's renewed attempt to highlight the plight of the people of Gaza by displaying a humanitarian message on his equipment during a test match has been denied by the ICC. Australia's opener, he was photographed with an image of a dove holding an olive branch, a universal symbol of peace, on the back of his bat and on his right shoe while training in the MCG nets on Christmas Eve. Khawaja consulted with Cricket Australia and the Australian Cricketers Association before submitting an application to the ICC to display the images during the Boxing Day test against Pakistan. However, the application was denied by the game's international governing body. ICC spokesperson said the ICC, after giving due consideration to Usman Khawaja's request for a personal message logo on his bat for the remainder of the test series against Pakistan, did not approve the application. Personal messages of this nature are not allowed as per Clause F of the Clothing and Equipment Regulations. On Thursday, ICC charged Khawaja, the world's leading run scorer in tests in 2023, for breaching its clothing and equipment regulations for wearing a black armband without permission during the first test against Pakistan in Perth. What happened subsequently is that Usman Khawaja then accused the ICC of having double standards for rejecting the application to display that peace dove on his bat in the Boxing Day test to raise awareness for that crisis in Gaza. He posted a series of images of players with different stickers on their bats, including a Bible reference on the bat of teammate Marnus Labuschagne. There you can see that, alongside a screenshot of ICC's rule. There is one, Hindu reference on Keshav Maharaj's bat. So he posted this and he said, "Merry Christmas, everybody. Sometimes you just gotta laugh. See ya at Boxing Day," he said, along with hashtags inconsistent and double standards. The 37-year-old, though, continues to receive support from Cricket Australia chief Nick Hockley and the Australian captain Pat Cummins. So, clearly we're not hearing the last of it. He's adamant that he will fight this fight. He said it. And there are other cricketers who've joined in. There's also now former West Indian cricketer Michael Holding. He's the latest to give his opinion on the matter. The fast bowler blasted the International Cricket Council and said he was not surprised by the stance they took. The ICC regulations say regarding messaging, approval shall not be granted for message which relate to political, religious or racial activities or causes, said Holding. So how the beep people were allowed to take a knee for Black Lives Matter? And how is it that the stumps were covered with LGBTQ colors, he said. This, he was speaking to the Weekend Australian. He further slammed ICC for not taking a clear stance on the issue. He says if it had been most other organizations that showed some semblance of consistency with their attitude and behavior on issues, I could claim surprise, but not them. Once again, they show their hypocrisy and lack of moral standing as an organization. And you know what? I will have to agree with Michael Holding. I will have to agree with Pat Cummins as well as Usman Khawaja on this one. Not for the political statement that Usman Khawaja is trying to make, as much as he can say that it's very personal to him. Definitely it is a political statement, but why this inconsistency from the ICC? We're going to have this conversation, Abhishek and I, but we'll take a short break and come right back.
जब हम करेंगे तो पता लग ही जाएगा सलमान खान का करेंगे मारेंगे या जोधपुर में मारेंगे तो पता लग जाएगा
This is someone who is sitting inside our jails and is still very obviously and openly running and possibly the largest organized criminal operation in the country.
Student organization of Punjab University में सोपू का acting president type भी रहा है.
He was a troublemaker, getting into fights with people, not coming to the class.
As on date, it appears that Lawrence gang is the most important, the prominent gang. Gangs here in Punjab, they are intimidated.
Today he is India's most dangerous gangster, and India's prisons are apparently no bar to how Bishnoi runs India's largest criminal empire.
News is now content. Just stream it. Download the world's first news OTT, News 9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
Okay, so just before the break, we were having that conversation about Usman Khawaja. Now, the ICC has rejected his latest request of having a peace dove on his shoe and on his bat. He is called ICC of having double standards. You can take a look at that on the big screen if you can cut it there. There's a peace dove on his shoe. It's at the back of his bat. And what he's done now is that he's posted this story on Instagram where he has shown photographs of other cricketers with religious symbols on their bat. There is Marnus Labuschagne with some biblical reference. There is Keshav Maharaj. I think he's got an Om sign on his bat. There you can see there's a cross on Nicholas Puran's bat. So does this mean that ICC really does have double standards? And the way forward for Usman Khawaja, who clearly is adamant that he wants to make a statement. So what happens from here on? It's an interesting one, and I do see others joining in. I think why others are joining is not because of whether Usman Khawaja is right or wrong, or whether they think that he should be doing it, but because collectively they all believe that ICC have erred in this, where they're allowing some people and they're not allowing him.
Yeah, ICC somewhere, they need to look within themselves and decide what they actually want. I mean, if you want to allow players to sport any sort of signs, whether they are personal, religious, or racial in nature, you have to mend those rules, and you have to either allow them to do that, or just say that nobody is allowed to have any sort of message, any sort of symbols on their equipment, on their gears, because now it's getting dirtier, because Usman Khawaja has rightfully pointed out that players in the past have sported symbols of religious nature on their bat, on their jerseys, and on their cricket equipment. So he has a valid point, and ICC now has to clearly respond to this and clarify their stand on this.
So this is what he said, right? I mean, Michael Holding has come out and said that, look, ICC also needs to figure this out.
Exactly.
They lack moral standing, and it is right. If you're allowing some people with some kind of religious symbols on their equipment, then you can, how do you draw the line and say this bit is allowed and this is not allowed? Then it ends up being a slippery slope. Either you have that rule for everybody and everybody follows that rule, or you don't. The other thing also is that I feel like why this is important for ICC to modify this is because this is not the last first and the last time we'll see players
Right.
do this, make a statement if they do feel for something personally. And Usman Khawaja has been very vocal about how terrible he feels with, you know, what he sees on social media of the images of kids coming out of Gaza. You know, they're in pain, and I feel like this is not the last bit of it. We'll see this again. We've seen this with football, as you were just mentioning. So
Right.
maybe it's time that ICC looks into this very seriously and modifies it to make sure that, you know, this doesn't happen again.
Right, and we have seen it in the past as well.
Yeah.
Moeen Ali tried to have that band on his wrist of supporting Gaza,
Yeah.
you know, supporting Palestine back in the time. But then he was not allowed. He was also sanctioned by the ICC. But you know, again, we have had cricketers who have sported those kind of symbols on the cricket equipment. You know, after that episode happened with Moeen Ali, and now Usman Khawaja has come out and he's been trying right from the beginning of the series till now. He has not given up on this. You know, he feels passionately about it, and he has, you know, tried to convey the same to ICC. He has written to them. You know, he has tried to post so many times on social media, trying to convey what you know, what he is taking a stand for at the moment. And yeah, it's high time ICC, you know, realizes that there is that you know, there is that a gap there in those rules, and you know, there has to be a standard rule for everyone. You know, there has to be some sort of consistency in them banning players, you know, from sporting certain kind of symbols.
You know, I just remembered Mohammad Rizwan taking to Twitter, right, and dedicating his 100 in the World Cup to the people of Gaza. There was nothing, no action taken against him, which is another thing that you're saying, that you can't do this during a match, but then you can go on your social media and you can post that after the match, that you, I mean, that you can have a political opinion on a particular issue after the match. I don't know whether that also works. I mean, how is it that you're not allowed to do this, but you're allowed to do that?
I think, yeah, ICC's problem is not with the fact that you go to social media and express your opinion or take a stand for what you feel is right or wrong, but their problem is, don't do it during a ICC match. You know, don't do it when you're playing for your country. Don't, you know, don't use our game, our, you know, don't use a ICC match as a platform to, you know, to express those political opinions. Of course, you can go out on social media and share whatever you feel is right. I think that is where ICC wants to differentiate. But then, you know, again, there have been instances in the past where you know, this, you know, where ICC matches have been used as a platform to, you know, convey certain kind of messages by a lot of players in the past, like Khawaja shared, you know, Manas Labuschagne with that Bible reference, or, you know, or Keshav Maharaj with a Hindu you know, Hindu symbol on his bat. So that is where ICC needs to, you know, come clear and take a strong stand.
Okay, and with that, as we were talking about this, India have lost another wicket. Shardul Thakur is back in the hut, and India at the moment 164 for 7. Bumrah is out in the middle, along with KL Rahul, who scored 29. And it's not looking good for India. What are you expecting from here on? I mean, what's a safe total? I mean, I know it's a difficult one, because
this is what I was fearing. You know, this is what I was fearing, because I thought KL Rahul would at some point, you know, run out of partners, and that is what is happening now. Because now you don't have you know, you have a Mohammad Siraj and Prasidh Krishna after Bumrah, who has shown in the past that he can bat a bit in Test cricket. Obviously, that over against England where he scored you know, 35 odd runs against Stuart Broad. So I mean, if he can hold on for a bit, then, you know, that allows KL Rahul some time to, you know, go have a shot at his half century and possibly take India closer to the 200 mark. But I think you know, anything above 200, India would take it at the moment, and that you know, that would be a pretty decent total to have.
Yeah, and then expect your bowlers to do to give you breakthroughs in the beginning. But that's it then, at least on the cricket bit. So thank you so much, Abhishek, for joining us here. We're just going to wrap things up, but before that, these were interesting visuals, and we thought we'd put them on the show. The grueling and sometimes dangerous Sydney to Hobart yacht race that got underway under sunny skies in Sydney today. The competitors face tough challenges as there has been plenty of stormy activity in the coastal waters off the east coast of Australia this week, with more expected. The Law Connect yacht, the runner-up for the last 3 runnings, had problems unfurling a sail as it approached the heads of Sydney Harbour, but got through safely enough in the leading pack. There was a near collision 10 minutes after the race began, prompting the crew of one of the yachts to wave the protest flag. And we're going to wrap things up. And as we go, if you are still hungover from Christmas, thousands of runners wearing festive costumes took part in the annual Santa charity run in Madrid. More than 6,000 runners crossed his Father Christmas, or one of his elves took part in that race through the center of the Spanish capital. We'll leave you with these visuals. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.
The scale of the attack was something that we were surprised at. David Hadley was a double agent.